Had some A. Marie right there and some Janet Jackson before that, giving you all the old and the new. Hashtag old to the new school. This is Westside. It's a boy DJ Ilatek, 89.6 FM in London, around the world on thisiswestside.com. And I've been talking about it for a little while, and now we've got the man in the studio. It's my man Raj. What's going on?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, man. I've been saying that we're going to be talking to you a little bit later. Well, when I was saying it earlier, that time is now. And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on the show. You know, I always love rocking with you, man. You're one of my favorite independent DJs out here, like doing your thing in the clubs and on the radio and that. So, as you know, we've done content before, and we've really spent a lot of time talking about where the money is in hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm a former DJ. Many people know that I've been DJing for about 15, 16 years, since around 98. That career grew, and I've always reacted to what the new media platforms are. So when YouTube came along, I started taking my camera with me when I was working in New York and LA for a publishing company, and kind of interviewing rappers, and that got me a lot of momentum in the mid-2000s. So I managed to interview people like Collie Buddz and David Banner and so on and so forth. And eventually that snowballed to me doing a mixtape with the Wu-Tang Clan, with my crew Love Soul and DJ Friction. And, you know, just a whole bunch of like kind of content stuff that we put on YouTube that's helped build my brand in music. And then, you know, when the bottom kind of fell out of music, or as you get a little bit older and you think, where do I want to kind of make my money? I realized that all the stuff I learned doing blogs and making videos, I could use to help brands sell their products. So now I've kind of put together a lot of content for sports brands like Adidas, TaylorMade, Nike, Hilfiger, you know, looking at things like designer fragrances or even designer packaging. So I kind of take what I learned from the music hustle and started applying it to brands, and I kind of model that on watching people like Steve Stout and Jay-Z take their learnings at a kind of street urban level, and then showing non-street and non-urban brands how to sell their stuff.
Have you read, you mentioned Steve Stout, have you read The Tanning of America?
So The Tanning of America came out when I was really head down building this agency, which I've had for quite some time, the Creative Content Agency. And also as well, I'm much more of an audiobook guy, and I think I've seen that on audiobook, but I did catch the TV series when it came out, and I actually thought it was very good, because there was a lot of kind of like old school footage, and I really kind of started in that 88, 89 Kane, you know, Run DMC era, and there's a lot of content which I'd not seen there before, and I think it was great that you got insight from like a lot of rappers that probably wouldn't normally come out and speak so openly.
That's fascinating stuff. Now, we've sort of talked in the past about marketing campaigns of artists that you have found quite interesting. Are there any campaigns that are going on at the moment? I know the festival scene is something that you're interested in. It's getting bigger and bigger at the moment. How do you see that kind of progressing? Well,
I mean, to answer the first question, the brand that I think, if I said it right now, that most people would be able to relate to would be Beats by Dre, which is obviously a move that he made originally with a hardware company called Monster. And so they took kind of all of Dr. Dre's expertise in audio and then all of Monster's expertise in hardware, and they had this great big launch of these headphones, which have now kind of, those headphones are what the iPod was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? They've become iconic both in terms of their look and kind of society and the mainstream consumer's reliance on that kind of device. So I would say that's one interesting thing. But then, as you mentioned, like festivals, even if you don't watch the market closely, you'll notice that summer festivals that used to be 1 day or 2 days are now split over 2-3 weekends, and I think that just shows the kind of massive pickup in live music. So whereas you might have lost on downloads, and certainly CD sales are a thing of the past, people want that live experience. And I think the money is putting stuff out music and content wise that you can't replicate, you can't download.
Absolutely, man. Now, what artists are you really feeling at the moment?
You know, at the moment, I kind of feel like this has almost become a cliched answer, but Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, it is so cliche, though, isn't it?
I have a Kendrick story if you want to hear it. I was in LA shooting content with Warren G and a whole bunch of other people. Yeah. And I was outside the club with Glasses Malone, who at the time was signed with Cash Money, and we were shooting some content around him. And running around me, trying to get in the club, was Kendrick Lamar. And we were all getting in the club with J-Rock. And also Ab-Soul was there as well. So this is when J-Rock was kind of the figurehead of that crew, and the West was kind of just reforming and rebuilding and coming out in way we see it now. So I was there shoulder to shoulder with Kendrick, you know, chatting to him. I've got video footage of him just running around in front of my lens. It's all on my YouTube channel, but it's amazing that when you commit to creating content independently, the kind of people you meet and where you meet them in their career. So for me, Kendrick is definitely one of the best. But you know, when I think about all time, I don't know if it's always around Biggie's birthday or death anniversary, but I do feel like it was big.
You do feel it was big. See, no one ever gives Pac any love. You know what? I find this, right? When you go to see hip-hop shows, when you go to see people like DJ Premier, Pete Rock, people like that, DJ Out, like I've seen them at Jazz Cafe, places like that.
Right.
Biggie gets so much love, but Pac never really gets enough. And I know that they're East Coast DJs, whatever, but you know, I'm all about Pac, man. You can get my mixtape, Tupac mixtape, on my SoundCloud. But, you know, it's a bit of a plug there. But it's all about Tupac for me, man.
I would agree only from the point of view that, you know, I love the fact that Tupac was an insanely incredible hard worker and had, you know, at least 14, 15 albums come out almost immediately upon his death. So from a content creation point of view, I'm down with Tupac because I believe in that. But I think that, you know, Biggie gets the love because he's so much closer to the nerve that is New York and that boom bap spitting, multiple types of flows, wordplay. I think that's the reason why I think people hold him the highest. And then the people that are regarded as the best MCs have obviously learnt from him as well. If you look at everyone from like Jay all the way down to a lot of the great new MCs that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Tupac was just an icon. Like for me, just as a person all round, everything he did with the acting, with the activism, with what he talked about, he really lived the life that he that he rapped about. You know, Biggie was good in terms of rapping, and Pac wasn't the greatest rapper. You know, he would use the same kind of phrases in every one of his songs, but just in terms of the all-round rapper, for me, Tupac should.
But look at the analogy. Like obviously, I work in tech and I follow like the startup scene and venture capital in Silicon Valley and all that. You look at someone who's really authentic like Tupac, and he's really the tide that raised the whole of hip hop. If you look at the amount of, you know, non-urban kids, non-ghetto kids that use Tupac as kind of a framework, a model, a role model to base their love for hip hop, he did what Steve Jobs did. Yeah. Right? He said stuff and he lived it, right? He was passionate about it and he'd go all out for it and he'd take massive risks. So when I look at someone like Tupac, I think, well, we can't discount at all what he did because, you know, he did in a similar vein to what Steve Jobs did. He believed in something, he stayed very, very close to his ethics and his guidelines, and he designed something that kind of the world followed once it was out there, and I think you can compare the two in the same way.
Absolutely, man. Now, tell us a little bit about what it is you do, because, like, what do you call yourself?
I have been previously known as a content consultant, but now that's like being called a dishwasher in my industry because everyone and their grandma has got one, right? So, I mean, essentially what I do is I work with the CEOs and VPs and directors of e-commerce companies and retail companies, and when they're looking at launching a product, whether it be a consumer product like a fragrance or a sports product, premium sports product like, let's say, very expensive golf clubs or something like that, then we'll sit down with the brands that are releasing the product and, you know, we'll look at them and we'll figure out a way to sell it, right? So how can we create blogs around it? How can we engage people on Twitter and YouTube and all those different online communities to get them looking at the product and trying to figure it out?
All right, man, we're going to keep talking to Raj from the Creative Content Agency, but let's get into some dope chicks. First quarter, Big Sean. The more I hear of this rapper, the more and more I'm liking him. He's not someone that I really liked as I heard him coming out, but the more and more I hear of him, the more I'm liking. How about you, Raj? You liking Big Sean?
I love him, man. I think, you know, that it's crazy how him and Sci-Hi the Prince and all these other guys came out around the same time, and then Big Sean just shot forward. Yeah. I think I've liked him from day one, but then I also like the fact that like Sci-Hi is coming up now as well.
Yeah. I remember Kanye like bigging up Sci-Hi like when My Beautiful Dark Fantasy came out. He was like, Sci-Hi is the best rapper. I think he's the best rapper. And then you never heard anything from him. Like, who's this random guy wearing weird trousers in those photos and stuff? But yeah, now he's kind of getting a bit of traction. So that's kind of interesting. Now let's go back into what we were discussing. Now, if you were an artist in the game, what kind of things would you do for that artist who's looking for media coverage, you know, to blow, really, all the usual things that artists look for?
So I have a bit of context on this because I did it myself from like 2004 until pretty much the last few months when I was a DJ myself, DJ Raj Love Soul, half of the Love Soul DJs. I think that, you know, the first thing you got to do is you just got to be a hustler. You got to take whatever's out there and make the most of it. And the good thing is online right now, if you're trying to build your presence, and this is all assuming you've got talent, then you've got to get on as many free platforms as possible, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Tumblr, whether it be starting your own WordPress blog, whether it be Instagram, and start following the trends. I mean, one of the easy things that you can do is look at the name of every single rapper on, you know, if you're, let's say, we'll take the example of a rapper, look at the name of every single rapper being tweeted online with hashtags and so on and so forth. Figure out what the main themes are. Are people talking about the Kendrick Control verse, for example? Or are they talking about, you know, Biggie's death anniversary or birthday? Getting involved in those conversations and getting traction around yourself as somebody who's got an intelligent 2 cents to throw in. Because, and I only say this because DJs, rappers, MCs in this urban industry, they're the worst people at selling what they do. I mean, you know as a DJ, I know as a DJ, and people that have built media behind us and personal brands, that you get independent rappers saying, yo, check out my record, go to my SoundCloud, and they're just asking all the time. They're just pushing their music on you. They're never actually offering any value. So the main thing is you've got to give something first. And I say that about business in general. always have something in the back pocket to offer. So summary advice, get on as many free platforms as you can, start creating as much good content as you can. Also, that's not music. You know, you can review other people's music, be thought of as an intellectual, and then when you do drop your own records, you've got kind of a foundation to base it on. That's the same if you're a breakdancer and you're reviewing breakdancing videos, a graffiti artist and you're, reviewing graffiti work, or an MC and you're reviewing other people's lyrics.
See, that's something that Russell talks about a lot, giving back. Russell Simmons, he's always going on about you've got to give back in order to gain more. Now, what you touched on a point where sort of DJs, artists, rappers, whatever it may be, are always asking, listen to my track, listen to this, like me on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. How, in terms of giving back, can you go a bit more in depth of what can they possibly do? You mentioned, reviewing other people's lyrics, but in a broader sense, what things can people be doing that they may not have thought of? So
when you think about giving back, it's not necessarily after doing something. I used to play it forward. So when I first met Collie Buddz and David Banner and all these people in LA, and at the same time I was there with like Bun B and Pimp C and other people like that. I mean, it was insane. What I said to them, my original pitch in 2006, 2007 was, look, I've got this small independent blog, this YouTube channel back home in London. They're obviously on the West Coast in LA. And I'm like, look, I've got a few hundred followers. A lot of people don't know that you were the artist on this record, or they've never seen the face of Collie Buddz. If I can get 10-15 minutes to interview you, I'll share it to at least my community of 300. Now imagine you're Collie Buddz or you're David Banner, and if someone in LA right now said to you as Illitech, I've got a community of 300 people, will you allow me to do a video interview with you? You do it.
Yeah.
So you're doing something for them, and of course to interview somebody you need a camera, you need a mic. You can do it with your iPhone, or you can do it with more expensive equipment. But the fact is, you're creating value for them. You're giving them exposure. Once you've got that bandwidth, you can then start asking for things. So it's not just a case of giving back. It's actually giving forward.
Yeah.
To flip it around. You understand what I'm saying? Do something for somebody else before you ask them, and keep doing stuff for them until you feel like you've got that rapport and that relationship where you can say, you know what, actually, David Banner, I do need a drop for my new mixtape, or actually, RZA, I do want to do a project with you. Can we go out and do, like, for example, myself, Love Soul, DJ Friction, we did the Golden Chamber mixtape, and that was because we actually interviewed, the Wu-Tang Clan. We were there with them backstage. We shot some cool videos, and then maybe the next day we felt it was appropriate, like, hey, can we get some drops? We've just come up with this idea for this project. Do stuff for other people before they do it for you.
Yeah, this is very, this is something that I've done throughout my whole DJ career, and I still do to this day. I do things, I do interviews, I shoot videos just like you, I do mixtapes, I do all sorts of stuff. So that is very, very important for artists. Now, if someone was to come to you, where would you kind of start with them, and how do you work with clients?
Like clients that sell products or like brands?
Either way, whichever you prefer.
So if I've got a client who's if a client first comes to me and they say, okay, let's say we sell any kind of consumer product, let's say it's designer fragrances, for example. The first thing I'll look at is, okay, you sell designer fragrances, you retail them. Where are your customers? And I specifically look for customers that are in digital pockets and digital communities. So where are your customers on Twitter and how are they behaving? Where are your customers on Tumblr and how are they behaving? And then if we have a story, because we build brand stories digitally, right? So we figure out what's the story behind this product. Is it a celebrity product? Is it a high-end product? What could it be? And then how do we tell that story on Tumblr? Do we put together a series of funny GIFs around that celebrity? Or do we write, a bunch of well thought out written content on like medium.com? Or do we take some really stylized shots in different places on Instagram and position it? And, there's so many different types of content you can create for so many different platforms. So that's kind of really where I start, to make sure that the product that I'm selling has got a really good opportunity to storytell on these platforms. And then you start thinking at a high level, how is it all integrated? And notice as well, as I'm saying this to you, this also works for people listening in, of course, like musicians, artists, anybody who's looking to brand build. It doesn't necessarily have to be a static product. It can be you or your product or your service. Even if you're not in the arts and you're an accountant or a lawyer, 80% of the consultation that I give to a brand in the first 6-8 weeks is pretty much the same. It's getting the house in order, and it's after that you start to really drill down to the specifics and the individual nuggets of value that you can get,
Absolutely. So how can people get in contact with you if they want to book you?
So, you can go to my website, which is creativecontentagency.com. My name, I can spell it for those listening in. It's RajKotecha. You can type that in on Twitter as well, at Raj Kotecha. Or if you find it a little bit easier to remember the name Raj Love Soul, RajLoveSoul, you can find that. But for the people that are out there listening in, that are really about, hustling and trying to build their brands, whatever they're doing, whether it be in business, even whether it be building yourself up as a graduate and you're about to leave, college or university, you can find me. I'm not a difficult guy to find. Raj Kotecha online, anywhere on Google, anywhere YouTube, any of the major social networks, get hold of me. And I am very willing to play it forward. Because,
is it just sort of big clients, small clients, medium clients?
I'm
one-man
lucky.
bands, you
I'm
work with
lucky
everyone.
at the moment because I'm in a position where my business is established. I'm established in the industry, so I now more gravitate towards projects that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, I keep those premium national clients to keep the bills paid, but then I will obviously lend my services to somebody if they've got that little something special. And I also make sure as well that the next Kendrick Lamar doesn't just walk past me whilst I'm in the queue, And so I mean, I'm really open. Just reach out to me. I'm available.
Now you're out tonight. Where are you heading out?
Tonight I'm going to go, actually, I don't DJ much to the public,
Yeah.
but I always DJ with my guys Flashback. So tonight they are in South Kensington at the old Brompton Club. Big shout out to DJ Ritesh and Rav, who are holding it down there. They're going to probably be jumping on the turntables in about an hour or so. I hit the decks at 11, so when we leave the show tonight, go get some dinner, hit the club, rock it, hang out for a little while, and then go back to sleep, wake up in the morning, hustle again, because it's the 7th day, right? It's still stuff to be made out there.
That's it, man. Is it drinks after the set, or are you just going to go home and be a good little boy?
You know what? I've got to say, shout out to Abs and Amar that are rolling with me today with the cameras and all that. I've got someone driving, so we might take the top off one little bottle. You know what I mean? It might happen. But I've got
bottles are there to be popped, Raj.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So we might sip a little something, and it's the weekend, but not so you get so loose. You know what I mean?
Well, tomorrow's Mother's Day, so you got to kind of keep it a bit
True.
Plans for Mother's Day?
I'm just going to be early on the phone, dude. Unfortunately, my mum's 100 miles away, so I can't see her tomorrow. But I'm just going to obviously, reach out. And then next week is my dad's 60th birthday. Shout out to my dad. So next week I'm going to go see him. And his original hustler taught me the basics of business, VAT, buy low, sell high. So next week I'm going to go hang out with him and my mum and, do the family thing. I can't wait.
Now, if someone wants to do what you are doing, what is a good route for them? What advice could you give to them?
You know what? This is such an important question that you just asked, because a lot of people come to me with business ideas and wanting to for me to invest in their businesses, and I always send them in the direction of 2 or 3 authors, the people that I study. So I would definitely go out and say go out and Google or go on YouTube and figure out or find out the talks of Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tim Ferriss, Kevin Rose, the Foundation series. There is so much free education from the people that started these big companies, and I would advise to people, go out and start researching the people that I researched, those names, and many more like Malcolm Gladwell and so on, that are really on the cutting, bleeding edge of marketing, and kind of build your foundation base from that.
That sounds great, man. Raj, really appreciate you coming in and giving us some insight into all this kind of stuff. It's very important. You're listening to Westside. It's your boy DJ Ilatek.